Everybody is speaking out about an event that happened in last night's game against the New York Islanders after a scary hit on Matthew Poitras. Fans and critics alike are calling for change. We're going to be talking about what happened here and what this means going forward for not just the Boston Bruins, but the NHL as well, because things are getting quite out of hand with this. Before we get into this, though, we know that good percentage of you guys watching right now not subscribed to the channel. We're on the road to 6K, and if you could hit the sub button, heading towards the trade deadline for all your Boston Bruins news, you're in the right spot. Hit the sub button. Join me here on the channel. We're covering everything Boston Bruins, and we have a lot of stuff coming towards the deadline. A few videos coming today, so be sure to stick around for that. But let's get into this, because this was a scary, scary hit. Now, not on Brock Nelson. I'll start off by saying that right away. This is not on Brock Nelson at all. He's going and finishing a play. He didn't know that gate was going to open. But I wanted to pull up the video first, kind of going over what happened. As you see, Brock Nelson hit Matt Poitras into the bench. That gate was opened. Quite interesting to kind of look at it that way when, the door is open, you're hitting him this, and let's be honest, why was that door open there? You see Matthew Poitras coming in. Obviously, they're going for a line change, but you have to be aware of what's happening. That's going to be an immediate injury. We've seen this in the past with Brock Boeser, who got quite a scary injury out of that, fracturing his back and had to be stretchered off. Now, luckily, Matthew Poitras was not stretchered off here, and hopefully we're going to get some good news out of this, but what could have came from that was absolutely terrifying. And this is what Kevin Paul DuPont said about this. The rooms are tight along the bench, but the NHL should consider posting off-ice officials at each bench to handle door duties. This was ugly. And now, we don't get reactions like this very often where we're calling for change, but this has been a pretty unanimous reaction across the NHL, especially with this event. Whether or not this was a Boston Bruins player, you have to admit, this was one of the, ugliest players and, ugliest plays, that could have gone down. Now, obviously, nothing to do with Brock Nelson there, just finishing a hit. That's an NHL play. But something has to be done. People are calling for it. Elliot Friedman has spoken about. David Pastrnak has spoken out. And we will kind of get into that as well. And with Elliot Friedman's thoughts right here. Elliot Friedman said this on the 32 Thoughts of the podcast here this morning, Friday morning. I actually thought instead of giving Brock Nelson the penalty, they should have given them a bench minor. Should have been a bench minor because you have to teach players to be aware in that situation. Now, I agree. It should not have been a penalty on Brock Nelson, but, I'm kind of up in the air about the bench minor as well. Now, I wouldn't be opposed to that as a rule in the future, but when you're looking at this as something that is not implemented, yes, people need to be aware here and need to really, avoid injury in this case because we've seen that in the past. Those benches, first of all, they're not soft. They're pretty hard, and especially when the gate is open, the points and how sharp that is really when you're going into the corner. And as we saw here, from that, this part here where the door is open, you see Matthew Poitras fold around the corner of that bench and not rush to his feet. That hurts a lot. And, this could be something very, very serious for Matthew Poitras, and let's hope it's not. But people are calling for change. And Matthew Poitras ultimately, of course, did not return to the game. And now the Bruins only had this tweet out that he was unlikely to return, but ultimately did not return to the game. But this is something that the NHL is certainly going to look at. With the reaction that have, gone unanimous over this, even I've seen Islanders fans saying, yeah, that's not the greatest play. Don't know why the bench was open there, and that's the right call, but still, kind of going back to that penalty, I really don't know if you can call it a penalty at that point, since it's not really an official rule, but I do not disagree with the fact that that should be put in the rule book, that, if you open the bench at the wrong time, if you cause an injury with that, yeah, it's a bench minor, because that's something I guess you can consider as intent to injure, even if it may not be intentional, even if you're not paying attention. That point is still there where you can cause serious and possibly career-threatening injuries, as the sense of Brock Boeser, where that was the immediate thought after that incident, after what happened when he was stretchered off, that it could have been a career-ending injury, and luckily it wasn't. Brock Boeser is performing very, very well, and gratefully he got back from that healthy, and that was in 2018, so having that still as a topic of conversation and still being brought up at times nowadays, it really goes to show how dangerous plays like these are. But I do have a freeze frame, really, and now I didn't get it exactly where Matthew Poitras was completely folded over that corner, but you can see here, he is on the boards right now, skate on the boards, leg on the boards, his arm is over on the bench, and he still folds around that and continues through it. Now, Brock Nelson did definitely I'd give him a hefty push, but if that was anywhere on the boards, anywhere there was glass, even if that door was closed, he probably would have went into the bench, would have been a nice hit, let's be honest. It's not from the back, it's more from the side. Matthew Poitras kind of just was skating into the bench and ultimately went in the bench, which was why this freeze frame looks not as great as it did in, a normal scenario. But it goes to show that this is something that the NHL is going to look at. And even with the reaction from the Bruins, and I'll get into David Pastrnak stories, kind of reactionist here in a moment, this is something that a lot of people are going to be fighting for. And I'm sure the Bruins at some point in the offseason are going to make a push to make this a rule if anything serious comes from this, even if nothing serious comes from this. We don't want to see this happen again. And, there are people in the NHL that may try to use this as a tactic. I hope that's not the case, and I don't even want to say that, but you never really know with how people are thinking and what kind of goes on in the mind of a competitive game that people could do this. But this is just a very unaware play by the Islanders bench here on this situation. But this is the breakdown from Brock Besser's injury here, and he's clearly in a significant amount of pain in the aftermath of the awkward collision. The Canucks announced Tuesday, which was 2018, don't mind the dates, afternoon, that Besser suffered a soft tissue injury and a non-structural, non-dislocated fracture of the transverse process in his lower back. He's expected to make a full recovery in 4 to 6 weeks. So we're kind of given a timeline here about what Brock Besser's injury was for that fracture in his back, which was 4 to 6 weeks, which is actually quite a quick turnaround time for a back injury. But with Matthew Poitras, where his was more so from the front rather than the back, a lot of soft stuff in that stomach area, and that could be a pretty big point of concern, especially we kind of see that, a bit of a different scenario here, but UFC injuries, when you kind of get a liver shot, you go down immediately, and that's really what it looked like from the stance of Matthew Poitras here, along the lines of something in the front that was not at all comfortable. So we're kind of given a timeline here, I would say at the most, but hopefully it's a lot better than this. Hopefully it's just something that, just hurt at the time being. But David Pastrnak was not shy about coming out about this and kind of speaking out about it, and he made sure to comment that the bench door should always be closed and no one should be pushed into it during the post-game presser. Boston's assistant captain was not thrilled about the play that got Matthew Poitras hurt, and rightfully so. David Pastrnak has been one of the leaders on this team and been the only reason that this team has had any success, really, in this season. And when we do look at whoever can help, and Matthew Poitras, not been playing great this season, but has certainly been one of the Bruins' better players. He wants to see his team healthy. He wants to see everybody on this team being able to give this team a hand to get to the spot. They don't want to lose. And David Pastrnak has been one example of this team trying to get to the playoffs still. And although it may be a long shot, David Pastrnak has not been shy about coming out about this team and saying the right, saying the wrong, and he was not afraid to come out about this. So let me know what you think about this. Obviously, it's not a great play, not a great look from the Islanders bench here. And do you think it should have been a penalty? And if so, what do you think? I want to get a little explanation. I want to see what you guys think, because obviously I do agree that the bench minor should be a penalty. But, you can't really make up a rule mid-game. So I do think that should eventually become a rule in the NHL, hopefully next season. But, time's going to have to tell with this, and hopefully the injury is fine. But that's all I got in this video. Let me know what you think in the comments below. But I do appreciate you guys for watching. If you made it to this point in the video, be sure to hit that sub button to get all your Boston Bruins news. But without any further ado, I'm done. Thank you for watching. Hope you have a great day. See you later.